So just looking at the calendar for the week, very, very quiet day today, and tomorrow pretty quiet as well. Obviously, we've had a change of time. Daylight saving has now been switched off in Europe, and for that reason, we're an hour later in some areas today. So if you've been fooled by that, then my sincere apologies, but this is a UK session open trading show, so that's why we're starting a little bit late today. As I say, not a lot happening today on news front. Tomorrow, pretty much the same. Bit of red news later in the day. It all starts to happen from Wednesday, which of course is the last day of the month, where we have CPI figures coming out from Australia. We have the MPC, or monetary policy statement, and of course, interest rate announcement coming out of Japan, along with the press conference. And then later on, we've got GDP figures coming out of Canada and a couple of speeches from central bank people on later on Wednesday. Then, of course, Thursday, we've got French and Italians having enjoying a bank holiday, whilst the rest of us listen to the Bank of England's inflation report, the official rate votes, their summary, the MPC summary, and of course the official bank rate, which is tipped to remain steady at 0.75 percentage points. So it's all happening later in the week. And on Friday, of course, we've got another NFP where, can you believe it, in November by the end of the week. In fact, it'll be the 2nd of November, and all the news will culminate, of course, with that non-farm employment change number, which is forecast to be just a little bit better than previous, but a little bit off par still, under that 200,000 mark at 191,000 jobs created in the month of September. Okay, or was it October? That's a very good question, actually. But is it the month before or the month before that? I should know that, shouldn't I? Does it really matter? It's just a big number at the end of the day.
Hey, mate.
It's the previous month. G'day, mate. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Welcome back.
What? I completely forgot how you get on this thing, and it's taken me like 10 minutes just to work out how to get back on. I was trying to start one, and then I saw that there was one running, so we're all in.
There you go. Everybody's here and feeling fine. I was just saying that very, very, very slow start to the week, but it all starts to kick into gear on Wednesday when we get over the hump and start to look at some red figures. And of course, we've got some interest rate announcements coming out.
Are you showing your screen by any chance, mate?
Oh, probably not. That's exactly what I did last week on Thursday. So anyone who was in last Thursday, my sincere apologies for that. For talking for an hour and a half without showing my screen. Must have been incredibly frustrating for you. And if we could work out how you guys can actually chat to us, it would be very, very easy for you just to say, hey, we can't see your screen. Anyway, we hope you got into the trade that we took, because it was a winner, Aussie yen long, and that was a good end to the week, of course. So what have you been doing, Ash?
Oh, well, I mean, I've been doing little bits and pieces in Singapore, which is why I haven't been here, and getting straight back into the analysis as well. Coming back into play again, just getting straight back into analysis. And mainly, as always, I'm kind of looking at the FTSE, for some specific areas that it might eventually turn. And I quite like it. I think the FTSE is kind of ready to turn. It's really a question of not so much whether it's ready to turn. It's just a question of what we need to really wait for, before we can have a little bit more confidence that we've got a decent trade. Because obviously the trend has been well and truly sucked to the downside, and I am looking for upside FTSE. I think there's quite a few reasons that I think there's some upside FTSE. But as I say, is it going to be wise to get in down here where the trend hasn't actually switched just yet, the longer term trend that is,
Actually,
or
the week has got a little bit of a reversal feel about it at the moment. I don't know if that's going to pan out, but there does. I've just got that little feeling. You know how you get that feeling in your bones that there's a
yeah,
reversal happening.
yeah,
I've kind of got that.
yeah. I completely agree with you, and I think. It's more of a question of how we play it, isn't it? Because do we wait for the reversal to happen, or do we try and ride it, while it's happening? And that they are notoriously difficult to ride. Trying to actually ride rehearsals is a notoriously difficult thing to do. It's obviously everybody knows that sticking with the trend is going to be a much easier thing on the whole to try and play. But it does mean that obviously if you're right, the potential for profits are much higher.
Mm.
So yeah, I completely agree with you. I suppose the other thing is what's going to be the catalyst. Last week we saw the FTSE rally off Mario Draghi's comments, which I didn't think were that substantial. When I kind of looked into them, I didn't think they were particularly substantial, but it did rally off the back of Mario Draghi's comments. What chart's that you got there, buddy?
That's Aussie yen. I've got an order here. I suppose I better give it to you. And I actually didn't realise this until I placed the order, that the entry level here going short is exactly the same entry level that we used on Thursday going long. Is that weird or not?
No, it's not. If not, have you got a turning point? I don't think it is.
Yeah, it's interesting though, to say the least. So we're going short here. I better give you that order, by the way, if you want it. Short at 79.31.
Yeah.
And the stop loss is 79.41, so 10 pips of risk here. And our target is pretty clear. It's either here, or you can probably pinch it about 4 more pips if you wanted to, and trade to the daily pivot. I think I'll be looking to close here, but if we get a bit of momentum, then obviously I'll give it a chance to hit the daily pivot. But if we get through this level, I'll certainly be moving my stops to that level straight away.
Yeah.
So that's the plan on this one.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Do you know what? I've even got a higher trend line, which leaves us at the area that you're at as a potential turning point. Where you've got your where you've got your the high or the uppermost high on the left of the screen.
You're coming from up here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and when you kind of run into the next high, it does leave us there, doesn't it? It does leave us at a point of resistance.
Yeah, look, we've also had a retest of the weekly pivot, which hasn't really yielded with this bar here. I suppose a little bit bullish going on the other side of it. But if I look at that on an hourly chart, you know what that's going to look like, don't you?
What's
not quite a double cross, but it's very, very close to it by the end of the
hour.
Right. I think the entry's safer here than it is here, to be fair, because I would like to clear this area. You can see how much traffic we've had in this, even today. This price hasn't moved from there at all, but it's a high traffic area and has been for a couple of weeks now. So I don't, or a week or so anyway. I don't want to be trading at that level. So I'd like to see that clear first. And if it does, I think we should have enough momentum to get to at least this low and potentially the daily pivot. I don't say I'm bearish the cross by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just seeing a little trade in here. That's all. Pretty much off the top. So once we get to this point, I might reassess and even think long. But I just see that little trade there, and it's I don't know, there's a little snipe in the market. So I thought we might take it.
Yeah, I don't see why not, mate. And I think that it just from what I'm seeing, that the kind of the structure that is going on right now with the market, is potentially at a bit of a turning area, but certainly nothing has really kind of made it clear that we're getting those turns. That the FTSE 100 I think is a pretty nice long, I think, for a little scalp. For about 30 pips to the upside, probably early doors now. It's just on the move, and we had a pretty nice reversal.
Should we do the FTSE first, and then I'll come back and do some analysis as well?
No, because you've got to go, haven't you? So why don't we get you through,
right,
and then
okay.
and then we'll have a look at the FTSE, because the FTSE, there was a trade, but I'm not sure whether I'd be that keen on it anymore now, really.
All right, well, let's start off with the euro. Now, the euro has broken down somewhat out of this range. If you can't see that range, I'll just point it out to you. It's pretty clear. Probably started over in this area, and we've been in it for quite some time. We've broken out of it a couple of times. This one looks as serious as this one was. Whether we can actually pierce this, in real terms, I suppose, if you go to the weekly chart, is following the head and shoulders pattern, which is very much offset, but seems to be following that channel that we've drawn in here quite well. And I'd be expecting that we might even see action down here at the confluence of the low and the bottom of this channel one more time. So I guess on that score, I'm a little bit on the bears side, but like I said from the outset, I've got that feeling of potential reversal in my blood at the moment, and I don't know if this is the time to go short. Maybe we need to come back here, a bit of a retracement, maybe up to the weekly pivot area that match this low and find some resistance, because I'm really not seeing a whole lot of resistance here until we do get to that level. So that's probably where I'm at on an intraday basis. I'm probably thinking there might be a little bit of a long trade to the weekly pivot, but thereafter I think I'll be looking to catch the shorts again. I think that's probably where I'm at as far as the euro is concerned. I don't think there'll be any change in that terribly soon. What we're seeing at the moment, pre-UK Open, is a little bit of buying's come in. We have had a test, and it looks a potential bounce off the daily pivot, and we're headed towards the weekly pivot. Very, very tough for me to jump into the market here right now, I've got to say. But the pullback's interesting. One thing I won't be doing is trading at the high of the day. So I'd need price to come back here if I'm thinking long. But I think I'm best served by just allowing the market to go to here and then look maybe for a bit of confluence. There might be a trade line coming through here later, and then trying to pick up the short again. So I'm not really interested in getting into the market right now on the euro. The Aussie is different, and I've been tracking the Aussie as it relates to gold. And we draw this comparison. I drew this comparison all week last week, and really it's a bit of a lag, if you like. Actually, I haven't had a look at gold since the end of the week.
Gold's rolling off a little bit.
Yeah, it's come back a little bit, hasn't it? To the weekly pivot. When I look at this chart, I see a resistance area, and that's probably why it's rolled off it. But how strong is it? I don't know. Yeah, look, it's you've got to look at it. There's no two ways about that. But I think once it's retraced off that level and has another crack at it, I think there's a fair bit left in this, perhaps. Maybe, up to here. Up towards the 1.3s. That's probably what I'm thinking as far as gold's concerned. Big reversal bar there, had a higher low, and it just keeps sneaking its way up. I think a retracement is due. I'll say that's for sure. Where it retraces to, of course, is an interesting question. I see this range that we've broken out of is yet to be retested. This range that we've been in here, so maybe there's a deep retracement on offer. I don't like Mondays for that reason, because I think the market needs to have a good look at itself and say, well, okay, we've had the massive bull bar here a couple of weeks ago, and we've been in consolidation since. We've tried to break to the high side and really haven't gone on with that job. In fact, we've failed 1, 2, 3 times. Make that 4 times. maybe there is a retracement due here, and maybe that's where we're looking back to 112.13 area before we look to trade this long again. I don't trade gold, but I'm using it as comparison. And that's probably what I'm thinking gold is going to do, and that's retrace. The Aussie drags along with gold, and I think it lags a little bit, to be fair. And I don't think we've seen the true upside of what we've seen in gold reflected in the Aussie yet. So for that reason, I'm thinking top of this channel again, this channel that we've been in forever, it seems. Actually, it was on Australia Day. I remember it very well, having looked back at it many times since. Australia Day being the 26th of January, and we've been in this waterfall, what appears to be a waterfall anyway, ever since. Certainly a big rejection bar there on the weekly chart last week. The daily chart is showing something very, very similar, and that's the bar that really annoys me. Why does it annoy me? Because it's bloody big. That's why. If it were a bit smaller, I'd be actually interested in trading that and looking at this here monthly pivot and top of that channel that we just looked at as a beautiful target. I can't trade that candle. It's too big, and we're trading straight into resistance here with a very, very poor reward on offer. If we were to take that trade, by the time you get into the market, you've got a risk of about 90 pips, and your reward is around about 1/3 of that. I don't think that's a good trade to take, to be fair. And what I'd like to see, if this is to be a reversal, is a price maybe hit this level, then come back off it, give me a higher low here in this area, and that would be the time to take that trade, in my humble opinion. So I'm prepared to wait for that. I do like the fact that we've had this big bullish engulfing bar on the daily chart a couple of weeks ago. Prices tried to get higher, retraced deep, but not beyond this low. Yes, we've pierced it, but we haven't closed below it, and I think that's a very, very good signal. I think this area here is my target area for the week, and I'll be looking for that probably tomorrow, not necessarily today. So I want price to hit some resistance, pull back, give me the higher low, and away we go from there. Cable doesn't look dissimilar to the Aussie, but gee whiz, cable hasn't been in the same waterfall that the Aussie has all year. But it's tough to be thinking long for me at the moment. That said, we have got a higher low potential here coming off. Well, I guess the bottom, if it is a bottom. But what level is it really coming off? I suppose it's this one here, which is interesting because it started the rally, which began back in June 2017, to get these highs back up to 143, where we've come off, of course, big time. And we're now down around the 128 mark or 127, somewhere like that. I see this as being a retest area, if at the very least, and potential for this to even smash through it and test these lows. That's what I'm seeing from a technical point of view. I see this as a reversal. I see this as a major lower high, given that it's the first retracement really that we've seen on the weekly chart since we had that big reversal situation up here. So I can't see this not being tested, this level 127.30, and that's my point. So I really can't be bullish in any way, shape, or form until we hit that level. And if it's tradable today, it'll probably come from bouncing off resistance. I don't see that possible on the 4-hour chart, to be fair, anytime soon. The 30-minute chart, maybe. Can it get up to this level is the question, and then reverse? Well, it can, of course it can. Yeah, look, I'd love to look for a short in either this area, or if it had the strength to get to the weekly pivot. I don't know that it will on a Monday, but you never know. So I'd look for a short either here or here. I'd be willing to have a crack here and then double up if it doesn't go from there. We've got an untested daily pivot, so the further it gets away from that, the better I'll be thinking. What else am I looking at, mate? Well, Aussie yen, of course. I am looking at Aussie yen with only that 30-minute trade in mind. As I said, I don't see this being a major force for me throughout the day. If I have a look at the daily chart, you can see that we've gone in to a consolidation. Well, there's nothing new there for Aussie yen. It just loves to go into consolidation after a move such as we've seen in the past month or so. Big bar here. This hammer that's sitting here is massive, and again too tough for me to even think about trading that. So I'm happy just to wait until this range completes itself, I suppose, and then try and trade it from top to bottom. At the moment, as I say, I see that pivot down there, and I think that's a little bit of a chance to get something out of the market, but absolutely no real bias to the short side in any way, shape, or form. Euro CAD, I'm really not interested in. Euro Aussie, I am, because I do have that slight bias short the euro, slight bias long the Aussie. Well, that's going to make me think short Euro Aussie if you put those two together. But I don't see that in the chart right now. To be fair, I see a base forming here, and I see that that nice reversal bar as well. I also see an untested daily pivot. So trading this would be totally against my bias, which is short the cross. It's Monday. I've got pivots close together. That generally means that we're going to range for a little bit. So I guess if the opportunity presented itself, I'd look to trade that up to here. Off candles this big, I won't be doing that because we've got very poor reward on offer there for the risk as well. So I'm not really interested too much in that. So yeah, look, a bit of a dusty approach to the day, mate. I don't think there's anything that's really outstanding in terms of opportunity. It'll depend a whole lot on whether these higher lows form and we do see reversals. But Monday, I'm just going to take it nice and steady. And if I can see little profits like that, then I'll probably jump on them. But otherwise, it'll be a slow day, I would imagine, for me.
Yeah, but do you know the interesting thing about today is that is Monday, but we're 2 days away from the end of the month, which is obviously drags certain currencies and indices into specific, because the technical pattern is it means that we're going to get a bar that's only 3 days away from closing and a really significant bar as well. So it may be maybe a good day to get into something to hold on to for a couple of days, I suspect.
Yeah, look, the other way that I look at that is, and I know what you're saying, and I hear it. If you can get into one of those positions, happy days. I tend to think that end of month, especially when we've got NFP at the end of it, the week that is, tends to be get in early, Monday, Tuesday, and then have a rest. That's the way I look at it. But that said, there's a whole lot of news coming on Wednesday and Thursday as well. So it's a little bit tough to have my approach, my normal approach, because we've got interest rate announcements very, very late in the month, on these crosses, the yen and the pound. So it changes the dynamics just a tad. And I'd be interested to see how the market's going to react to that. Maybe there will be big moves coming up in people pre-positioning themselves for those interest rate announcements, which aren't meant to move, mind you, but along with every interest rate announcement comes a press conference and a full statement. So that gives the indication as to where the central bank is headed, and that's why the market will react. The market normally leading up to NFP, if it's end of month, is something that crawls along, but this has got a potential this week to be something completely different to that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think the UK announcement is an interesting one. The fact we got that interest rate announcement potentially coming out for the UK is a really interesting one. So we may well see some decent price action today. And because of that, and because of the structure of the FTSE right now, I'm actually quite keen to look for a long, because the thing is that the pound, as you say, is unlikely to get an interest rate rise anyway. But the question is going to be about press conference, and will there be any Brexit detail we're getting very close to the Brexit negotiations. You know, either failing or giving us some more detail as well. And I think that there will be some speculative moves. And I think the FTSE specifically has been, you know, it's been really well and truly beaten up this month to this point. It's around about 500 pips to the downside, you know, plus. So I think we should see a little bit of gravitating towards a push to the upside, just to attempt to hold some structure, because it would mean that the structure to the upside hasn't completely broken down. Even though we've tipped below it, I think we you know, we haven't completely broken down so far. So I'd quite like to look for some longs in the FTSE, and probably a long that I probably would go in pretty light on, just so I can hang on to it. Because I think, just like you've managed to kind of get a potential turning point with Aussie yen, I think there's a turning point here with the FTSE. So if it was to tank back to the downside, I think there's probably something that would probably, the price would probably return. So we can probably flip positions, you know, in this kind of in this specific area. So I will look at the FTSE in a bit of detail in a moment, just before the market open, because I've got a loose plan on how I want to trade it. But I do want to trade this one to the upside. But I'm just aware of time for you, mate. So did you want to stick around for a bit, or are you shooting off now?
I'll stick around for 5 or 10 minutes, mate. No troubles. I would like to make a comment on that. The FTSE, you know, like all stock markets around the world, I don't know, and we've spoken a fair bit about in the last couple of weeks, especially in TTR Evening Show, about whether we are about to go over the waterfall, whether this massive correction that everyone's been expecting for the last 9 of 10 years or something is actually going to take place. I think the answer to that for me is, I don't think we'll get this warning. If it goes, it'll go without us.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're there yet, to be fair. I think
No, and I'd say the way to trade that is just pick those points where it could turn, see if you can get in a short, and then if it does really tank, then you're on board. You know, we can't trade it in any other way than a technical way, can we? This is the thing. But let me quickly show you, because we've got the market open coming in. I'll show you what we got with the FTSE.
Sure.
This is what I'm looking at with a FTSE. So, you know, we're just about to close this hourly bar, and really nice engulfing bar to the upside. This is a questionable line, obviously, because we've had this penetration through it, but that's something that, you know, I'm trying to figure out where the structure of this hourly chart is, and I think it's somewhere around here. It looks pretty good. We got a nice little hammer here. Looks like this was the previous breakout, which has come back and tested, and it's come back up again, and it's coming back and tested. So I just want some retracement into this bar. If I can get some retracement into this bar, leaving me far enough away from this point, then I'd like to see what happens. But the key for me with the FTSE are the longer term time frames. Here we go. So if this comes down, I think I'm probably aiming for around about, we got a weekly pivot. We're right on top of a weekly pivot, so we should get some resistance here. And if not, I'm happy to let this come up here and come back down again, and give me an entry. First entry we're going to look for is around about the 69.50, maybe 59.60 area, maybe somewhere around here. This is going to be the first area that I'm going to look for a trade to the upside. If it doesn't hold there, then I'll look right the way back down here again and see if it can actually hold. If it breaks down here, I'm not that keen on the short, because you know, when I look at these longer term time frames, we are we're pretty overcooked. Let's just have a look at this. This is what I'm talking about with the FTSE. This is the monthly structure here, and we're right on top of this number. So if we zone in to a daily here, just to kind of give us a bit of a cleaner look at this number here, we're right on top of this number here, which means that there's going to be a fight for this area. Now that is an overall target, which is around about 7,100. It's slightly shy of 7,100. And we're currently down at 69.70. So I think there's a potential 100 pip run in this area. So I'd like to try and trade the FTSE long. And I think it'd be great to trade it long into the end of the month. And if we can get up to this area, then maybe we look to hold and go through, or maybe that's the point we look for it to turn again and go short, because ultimately we do want this short. But I just think there's an opportunity to trade this back up again. It's attempted to break down. 1, 2, 3 times really here, and it looked like it had done, but it managed to get some indecision. Last Friday we got a pretty decent hold, but that spring was all from the Mario Draghi, all off the back of the Draghi speech, and into the close the FTSE rallied. So so I'm looking for this FTSE 100 to hold in this area. Unless we get, as you said, unless we get an absolute, complete shock, then my belief is that it probably will. Now, if it's not to do that, then obviously we're going to be looking for shorts in this area, but only if it goes down and comes back again. So right now, I think because of this this longer term time frame, so this monthly structure here, then I'll be looking for the long into this area, and then possibly flip positions and start looking for the shorts. But right now, I think FTSE 100 for some upside would be a decent trade. It's just making sure that we get a decent price, because so far this is getting a little bit too close to that upper trend line. So I'd want to see, which I don't mind this. This is absolutely fine, because if this is to just get rid of this. If this is to give us an opportunity here, then coming into this area and then coming back again.
What chart's that, mate? I can't actually see it.
This is the UK 100 1 hour.
1 hour, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you have a look at the 4 hour.
Yep.
And move your trend line. Yeah, I've got that same channel, which is just it's breaking now, yeah?
This one here. This one here? Yeah,
but it's a little bit tighter. Oh, that's my screen. that's why I've got that channel. That's my screen. Yeah, you're tricky.
You mean this here?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's possible that is the channel, but the problem is then we're not taking into account these highs here.
So I can't see the highs.
So this, let me give you the exact times. So I have got the 22nd at 1300, and I have got the 25th at 2100.
Uh, 25th at 2100. Yeah, I've got different times on that. You mean?
Of course, you're on. I'm on Axie Trader. Okay.
Where that's broken out, you mean that false break?
Let me have a quick look at your chart. Yeah, so effectively that red candle that you've got there, that you haven't, you've not got the wick, the high of the wick there. That's what I'm using. So if you were to shift that up to that,
yeah, I know where you're at. Yeah.
Shift that up there, and then lower your lower line. You see there? Yep, that looks as clean. That. Yeah, that looks as clean. And the thing about that one is it hasn't broken the highs. And I think that's where we need to get through. And I think that's the area that we'll probably go to and bounce off of. I'm hoping anyway, because that would potentially give me an entry when it starts to draw back again.
Either way, it'd be pretty cool to get there, get to that level.
Yeah.
If that is the top of the channel, then come back and hit the weekly pivot, which is not far away.
Absolutely, yeah, and the weekly pivot may be the entry. You know, I'm looking low. I'm looking to see if I can get in at 70, but as you say, the weekly pivot, sorry, not 70, sorry, around about 59 area, but the weekly pivot's sitting more like 70. So 70 might end up being the entry. There was an entry right on the lows of this, unfortunately, but just an impossibility to take. But what's good about this is that you know, we get quite a lot of information from the first 15 minutes. You know, how the first 15 minutes of trading is going, and it's not actually that good practice to trade before the 15 minutes before the first 15 minutes is finished. But what's good about this is that we can see that there is some bullish price action going on. You know, that there are some decent orders going in around here. So because of that, it looks at this point, you know, the first 15 minutes, if that is going to give us a decent barometer and a snapshot into the rest of the day, or certainly the first half of the day, then it's suggesting that the day will be a buyer's day. You know, if this continues to push into these areas, it's suggesting it's going to be a buyer's day. So all we really need to do right now is figure out where we're going to get on board. Now, if we are looking at this 15-minute chart, this is already starting to look like we're getting some overextended bars here. And that already suggests that the likelihood that we continue to overextend is diminished. You know, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen if there's a lot of emotion in the market and that emotion is on the buying side. This could take off and give very slim opportunity to the upside, but it is unusual. So what I'll be looking for is this exhaustive move to eventually dry up, and not because there's you know, the sellers start to step in, but I just think the buyers probably move you know, away from their bias, and I think that this is a pretty obvious area for me. And when we consider this point too, that was the high that we saw on the 29th. So when we were, sorry, on was that the 26th? No, it might actually have been from the Asian session. Yeah, so the Asian session's high is here. You know, and then we started to ease back to the downside. So if the Asian session's high on the futures market is in this area, then there's a good chance that that the buyers that have managed to get in down here or here will be taking profit and move aside. And then as this retraces, then we get those buyers coming back in a slightly better price. So I don't. This is fine so far. It's okay for us to kind of wait for this, but because the likelihood of an explosive move to the upside is slim, not impossible, but it's slim. And as I say, if these areas are correct, if we got this trend line here, and certainly the Asian high is there, then that would suggest that we'd probably dip a little bit.
That all you've been looking at, mate? FTSE, no current shares?
No, actually, not all I've been looking at. The other one I'm interested in, and I'm interested to get your opinion on this, is the CAD Swissy.
Oh.
Now, the CAD Swissy, well, is this not a good one for you?
I hate the Swissy. I just hate.
You don't like it,
but I'm more than happy to have a look at it. In fact,
yeah,
it's funny. Today was the very day I was just, as I do on a Monday these days, I clear my charts of anything that I don't want from the previous week, and CAD Swissy was the first to go. I'm not sure why I had it on my chart actually, but anyway.
I find this one a real interesting chart, and the reason I find it interesting is that the break to the downside or the shorter term time frames are showing for downside. This 4-hourly chart is the first one that is starting to push lower. You know, it's there are actually signs and signals on some of my proprietary indicators which suggest some downside here. And when I look at the hourly, there is something sort of similar. Oh, I'm going to have to extend this. I don't like this without the ray, because it puts me just in the right spot. The hourly looked actually, it's changed hands in the last hour, but the hourly looked like it was going to start breaking down here. So I've got proprietary indicators which suggest downside. But when I go to my daily, the daily, which is obviously the chart to trust, you know, of the two, is in a holding area. You know, so this actually is a decent area to look for some upside. But you know, the reason I find this one interesting is that the proprietaries are suggesting some downside, but the daily is holding for some upside. So what that kind of says to me is that there's probably nothing to do just yet, but it should be on red alert. And what I'm looking for is to see if this can break through this point. You know, if it can actually break these lows here and then pop back forward, then I think that there could well be a trade on CAD Swissy for some downside. I'm not interested in upside. I think that the way that this has been going, it's just a little bit too messy for looking for upside. But if it breaks down and pops up again, which doesn't look like it's that far away in the matter of days, for us to look for, then I'd like to look for this one to come lower, and I'd like to look for it to come lower somewhere in this area here. So yeah, that was one. That was one that I was looking at, and I've got to say, I have been looking at others, but none of the others are all that clean in comparison. You know, I don't really see anything that that I'd be that keen to be waiting on. I find that the fact that we've got that interest rate on the pound interesting, and the pound is a potential area of support. But it's been so strong, the move to the downside, that I don't think that would be too wise to trade. But the other one, which I also find quite interesting, is the Aussie gold, because
Yep.
you were talking about this.
No, what's last
So
week?
Aussie
All week.
gold to me is, you know, it's a really important level here. You know, and it is refusing this level. So this one for some downside, I think would be I think a really interesting move, because really what we're looking for with Aussie gold is some upside. You know, it's certainly a trade that I would be interested in. But when we kind of scan out here, the weeklies at a very important level, which suggests that, and look again how exhausted this move is kind of started to get here. So intraday, I think looking for the shorts in Aussie gold will actually be pretty good. But I think ultimately looking for the long would be you know, a really nice trade, and looking for the long somewhere around here. So and if that was to come all the way back to that point, and then put in a reversal pattern down here, I think Aussie gold could be quite an interesting trade as well.
I actually
So
haven't been talking about Aussie gold. I've been talking about Aussie and gold as a comparative,
yes,
you know,
yes,
as a correlation pair, and
yes.
that's where I'm at. I think Julian raised a subject on Tuesday about Aussie gold. I wouldn't have a clue about Aussie gold, so you tell me.
Well, do you know what? This is the reason that, because Julian was talking about it, I thought it was a really good point,
Yeah,
actually. Why trade gold against the dollar when you know you could trade it against the weakest
sure.
currency around? So it's just when I look at the chart with this one, I find the chart quite interesting. You know, the fact that we have had a boost to the upside looks like a pretty nice channel there as well, that we're right on the top end of. So I think, you know, that it looks to me like some shorts in Aussie gold are probably likely to come into play. But this is a pretty bullish move to the upside, and I think if the markets do have that recovery that we're talking about, that push back into the upside, if we're, you know, talking about the world markets pushing back to the upside, and finding that next level of resistance, I think this one might do the adverse of that, and start moving to the downside and find some support, and then we can maybe pick this one up. Because
Yep.
if there are some structural issues in the global economy, then gold Aussie would be a decent trade to get in on the long side, I think, and it might be something that we could hold on to, because the Aussie has been, you know, it has been aggressively sold off, hasn't it? It's not like the
All year.
Aussie all year, exactly. And what's going to give this one the chance to turn around? And I have to question it. You know, it's too big a question mark for me to trade
Look,
the Aussie long.
yeah,
I
there's
think,
absolutely no fundamental reason why the Aussie should appreciate at all.
yeah,
None.
yeah,
Can't
yeah.
think of one. The only thing I can think of is that somebody will one day wake up and say, "Gee, those RBA guys, they're pretty cluey, you know. They held their nerve. The Australian government's pretty nervy. They held their nerve. They did the right thing through the GFC. Maybe they're pretty good money managers. Maybe they actually got it right, where everyone else seemed to, you know, go into recession, all the rest of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Now it must be said, climbing the way out and climbing the way up very, very well, but not a whole lot has changed in the Aussie. And you know, I think that stability maybe might just hold it up for a little bit.
So what, the Aussie, the Australian economy didn't really shrink, did it?
Oh, look, it did threaten to go into recession there once, I recall, about 3 or 4 years ago. But we haven't had a recession. Gee, I think it's a long, long time. I'll look that one up tonight but it's over 10 years. I think it's something like 13 years.
Yeah.
Since there's been 2 consecutive
Wow.
downsides. So for that reason, and throw in GFC there, the money management side of things and fiscal policy combined with monetary policy seems to have been a fairly good indication that Aussies are pretty good money managers. If you ask me, standing on the sidelines, it certainly doesn't look like that internally. But if you look at the macroeconomics of it and how Australia has not suffered in any way, shape, or form in terms of house prices, in terms of maybe wage growth is the only thing that isn't moving, but the economy's ticking along okay. Inflation rate's not there, but everything seems to be okay.
So did house prices freeze, or did they dip at all?
We're going back to 2008. I think they probably dipped 5 to 10%, but have just gone absolutely ape shit since then.
Right.
They've come off a bit in the last 6 to 8 months in the capital cities, but that said, they were absolutely red hot.
Yeah.
And everyone was predicting a bubble burst and all the rest of it. Hasn't happened.
Right.
Just hasn't happened.
Right.
So the economy's ticking along nicely. If resources continue to go okay, then so will Australia.
Right.
China's a big question, of course. If China ticks along at 5% or 6% or something like that, then Australia hasn't got too many problems. If Donald Trump gets in the way, then there could be issues. So yes.
Well, do you know what? Let's have a quick chat about China, because the Chinese. Have we still got my chart here?
I believe so.
Okay. The Chinese setup. There was is this the right one? Yes, the setup on the Chinese indice was looking okay. I was ready to go long on the Chinese indice, because when we started to look at this, let me just draw some lines on this chart here. When I started to look at this, I've got little point here, which we look like we and this is the point here. Not forget these last 2 bars. We can this one's fine, but forget the one we're currently in. We started to again, I'm looking to see where are these global indices going to start holding some structure and starting to turn around, because that they've been terribly beaten up. Now, when we look at this on a monthly chart, again going all the way back on a primary chart here, this is where we are, right on top of a potential a primary trend line. So looking for the upside here is not a bad option.
Mm-hmm.
Then when we start to come in a little bit, we had a hold. This is a weekly chart. A couple of weeks ago we had a hold here, and then the last week was the real push. But the significant point for me was on this 4-hour chart, because this is the chart that I like to look for some entries for the swings. And there was a few points. Let me just bring in the daily a second. So this daily, in fact, the 4-hour is going to give me my final trigger, but it's the daily that I need to break through. So this was the move to the downside. Now, all of a sudden, we started to boost to the upside because there was some announcement about stimulus. And we came up and we came back, and it looked like we were going to hold, as we came forward again. But look what's happening in today. Back down again. So this is the interesting thing, what you're saying about China. China had a catalyst, and this is the whole thing with any market. Any market can only move on, well, let's call it stimulus. There are many kind of different ways that we can phrase that, but effectively, any market can only move on stimulus from the powers that be, whether it's going to be the world market or the central banks or wherever it is. It needs something to grab onto. It needs something to drive it. It needs a catalyst to drive it, and it looked like China had it. But when that catalyst fails, then it tells you that that whatever they threw at the economy at that particular time has maybe got higher forces, that means that those potential fixes that they put in just cannot sustain a rally to the upside, because it needs a rally. In this particular point, it needs a rally. If this is to break down, as you said, the waterfall could be pretty ugly. How far we come, we don't know, but the waterfall could be pretty ugly, because China will drag the Australian dollar down with it, and potentially the Australian economy down with it, and the knock-on effect throughout the world could be pretty serious. So and this is the thing about the FTSE. You know, the FTSE is having a pretty decent morning right now. But the safest way to play the FTSE, you know, I'd love to get the FTSE on a long here, because I think that there is some decent upside on the way. But the safest way to play the FTSE is allow it to go long, leave it go, and you know, after it's gone into an area around here, we look for the short. If it continues higher, we still look for the short, and if it continues higher, we finally look for a short. So we are looking for shorts in the FTSE 100, really. You know, as it explodes to the upside right now, we are, you know, we're missing out on a pretty nice trade currently, you know, because we're just not. I haven't been given the opportunity to get in, and I'm not going to chase this one, because the thing with the FTSE is that we've had these false dawns, if you like, before, where it looked like it was going to hold here and it burst through and then it tanked the downside. And we've seen the same thing.
If you keep trading single reversal bars during trends, you're going to finish up in a whole heap of trouble. Yeah,
this is it. This is it. Now, I do want to go long, and I will go long if I get the right price. Because I do think we're going to get a hold in this area, but ultimately I'm only going long so I can eventually reverse my position and go short.
Absolutely, totally good.
We're so far down here that the long is really the only possible direction to go in, because it's so oversold. You know, I can't go short anymore, because the short becomes quite dangerous when you're on. When you're in oversold territory, you know, big pummeling move to the downside. There's been some stability here, so we're in oversold territory. Plus, we're on primary trend lines. So you know, with those factors in tow, the safest direction to go in from here is long. But really, the safest thing to do is nothing. You know, and that's why I won't chase it. If I don't get my price, okay, no problem. I'll wait for the next wave, because really, what I'm after is to go short on this market rather than going long. We can bring just about any of these markets in to kind of illustrate this point even further. The pound is also at a pretty interesting level here, and it looks like it's another area that we should really be looking for longs. But is that going to be the safest thing to do? You know, the way that this has been a pummel to the downside, I mean, I would suggest certainly not until we get at least a whisper that there might be something that that could drag us forward. And if there was a whisper that we had an interest rate rise coming, or Mark Carney was due to say something significant, then I'd be looking for longs in the pound as well, because of where it is. But these are the difficult trades to take. Even though I suspect we probably will get a bit of a rally from here, just for, you know, the fact that we have sold off aggressively. Sellers are probably going to kind of step back and take their profit, and the buyers will probably start speculating about that there could be a possibility of movements, and it's worth taking a trade on this. So, you know, the pound's directional bias for probably a more sensible trade is to the upside, but actually the safest thing to do is just stay out of the way.
Yeah, look, I think if I'd seen any hint of reversal at that lower level in the 10th of August or wherever it was, the extreme low on the chart, I don't see any sign of reversal there. It reversed, of course, but I don't see any sign of reversal there. I don't see a big bullish engulfing bar. I don't see a head and shoulders. I don't see a morning star, anything like that. So I absolutely see that level being retested. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I can't get that out of my head. That's where I'm at, you know.
Well, I mean, I suppose this is a kind of a scruffy looking cup and handle. That's about as
Yeah.
good as I can give probably. But you're absolutely right. And this was checkers, you know. And this is the thing about these markets is that, and this is my problem with what you're saying about the CAD Swiss. The reason I probably will avoid trading it is that I understand very little about either economies, and my interest in understanding either economies
It's less.
even less than I know. So I don't think I will be trading with the CAD Swiss, but with the pound, you know, this was checkers. So because there was an event here, to try and get a trade to the upside, all of a sudden becomes worthwhile. And really, I suppose when we're looking at trading, we do want to have that those things out in front. You know, the euro the other day was really interesting, and it meant that the FTSE was going to be interesting because Mario Draghi is a driver.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a look at this euro and see when it started to rally. This is around the 1 o'clock time, and it rallied all the way up to the end of the speech. So you know there was this move in the euro. You know, the 70 odd, 80 odd pip move in the euro was off the back of Mario Draghi. Now, anybody that understands about the economics of it, or even the fact that you've got a driver, would have probably taken a long here because you know you've got a potential area of support, and all of a sudden you've got potential area of support down here, and all of a sudden you've got a key speaker coming out. So as long as that key speaker doesn't say anything too disastrous, then the chances of it holding at a significant level of support are there. And interestingly, look at the date that rallied as well.
I can't
You
see
that
on your chat. No.
Okay, let me flip this again.
The control panel's too small for me to see it.
Sorry, mate. Well, this rallied on the 15th.
Okay. Yep.
Now let's bring this one back. This rallied on the 15th.
Yep.
So you know the pound and the euro were in conjunction with each other then. So I'm pretty sure that was checkers, but maybe it's something to do with the dollar, and maybe checkers was a bit later. To be honest, they could both rally off the back of checkers, and checkers was checkers was the prime minister's speech on the steps about you know how we were going to deal with the EU. So that you know all of a sudden we had a little bit more certainty, and that's when you know things started to rally with the pound, and the same thing with the euro. But you know the interesting thing with this is that if we have chart structure, and this is the point I'm trying to make, probably fairly scruffily, but if we have chart structure and we also have something which could drive the chart, then we really have the better type of trades. Because what we want is volatility. You know, when we're trying to take any charts and any trades, we need volatility for anything to work out. And you know, obviously, what creates volatility? Yeah, we know speeches create volatility. We know interest rate announcements or CPI or average wage, you know, significantly for the UK create volatility. So with that in mind, that means that we may well have you know the way to trade. And somebody was asking me recently how to trade fundamentals, and really my answer to trading fundamentals is that we don't even have to be a fundamental economist to trade them, as long as you understand your charts. Because if you understand your charts and you know there's a fundamental announcement coming, you just trade your charts as normal. And then you're looking for that fundamental announcement to you know to give you that catalyst to move the charts in the direction that you've read.
Sounds simple, doesn't it? Trading news, really.
Oh, mate, it's easy, isn't it? I mean, this whole
speak.
thing's easy. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why we're not in Vegas.
Why we get fussed about it all the time? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because we're human. We tend to add that little bit of emotive aspect every now and then, and we get, especially as males, we get this opinion that's just undaunting. You know, it can't possibly be wrong, and
Yeah,
you know that's really hard to get out of your head. If you are a male, you think, oh yeah, look, I can see that. It's like a big cricket ball. I'm going to hit it for 6. And,
oh yeah.
And nothing will sway you from that. you know.
Yeah.
Unless you are able to jump yourself out of that moment of emotion and say, well, hang on a minute, no, that's actually not right. It's what I want to happen, not what I conceive will probably happen, and that's the difference, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, that should be near our quote of the day, really, shouldn't it?
Oh, I think I've probably got one sitting here somewhere, haven't I? Yes,
Oh,
I
have
have.
you?
Of course, I have. And this is
You
not
seem.
far from it, actually. Have you got my screen? It looks
Let's
like you
put
have.
you back. Let's put you back. I don't think we have. Yeah, we do. How did that happen? Yeah. No, we got me. You, me, you. Yes.
Now, when I look, there we go. This is from Sun Tzu. Every battle is won or lost before it's ever fought. Now, Sun Tzu was not a currency trader. Sun Tzu was, in fact, a war status, not tactician, a battle tactician, and admiral or something like that in the Chinese army. And I think this is extremely pertinent. Maybe not so much to what we were just talking about, but not too far off it. You're going to win or lose even before you go into the market, because you should have made up your mind what you're going to do before you go into the market, within reason. I mean, there can be things that will alter that, but if you go in with a plan, in particular a battle plan, because it is a battle, you're battling the market. Not only are you battling the market, you're battling the brokers and you're battling yourself. So it is a bit of a war going on in there. It's a bit of a war zone. So if you go in with a set plan for each trade that you go into, just like, you know, I don't know who we're talking to in the room. I don't know if they're traders or whether you're learning the art, or you just come to trading and want to know a bit about it. I don't know. But it's pertinent for each and every one that you will see Ash and I go into a trade with absolute entry level, absolute target or series of targets, and definite stop losses. That's what this guy's talking about. If you haven't got a plan that says, okay, this mob over here need to be taken out on the left flank or whatever the case may be, and if that happens, then we can move to this level. If that happens, we can move to this level, and, you know, slaughter all these people. I know that sounds a little bit rough, but that essentially is what's going on there. So that's precisely the point that I want to make, and why the quote is there. If you don't go into that battle with yourself, the broker, and the market fully armed with all of those things that I've just mentioned, then your chances of success diminish dramatically. Versus if you do go in with a big plan. Now, who is this Sun Tzu guy? Well, you can Google him yourself, of course. Where is he? I don't even know if I've got him up. Can't find him at the moment, but just Google him and that'll tell you all about him. He was, as I say, an admiral or general or something like that, but certainly a tactician who mapped out all their battle plans and all those sorts of things. Very successful man who later became a philosopher and all sorts of different things. So that's the quote of the day, mate.
Very good, very good. I like that. And actually, that's as you say, it is quite pertinent, isn't it? And you know, talking that, I think the two of us have you know, we have got our battle plan for the day, and we haven't got long really left for the show. So I'm going to just give you my numbers and my plan just one more time, just in case anybody needs to know it.
Sure.
And where this comes in. So what I've got a few lines here. I've got this level here. Actual facts. Let's take this one as well. I've got a level here. Now, what's happening right now is we are just above the daily pivot, but we are on a potential level of resistance here. The market has opened up really strong. Nice. Nice bullish engulfing bar here, nice hammer here. So it's a combination of two things. Also a morning star pattern as well, really strong morning star pattern. So we know we want to go long. There's no point in going long in this area. because of the risk to reward ratio just won't be there. So what we're really after is for this market to just come back a little bit. Now there's a potential level there. I think the more significant trend line comes from below this one here. I think that's a much better trend line, and then it kind of leads me to having a level here. Now I could pull a fib on this as well. My fib was going to be probably easier to see on a 15-minute chart because I'm going to do the overall trend. There we go. Okay, so there's my fib. Now when I look at this, I've got 69.66, maybe 69.70, somewhere in this area anyway. But anywhere along this trend line, really, I'm after a trade. There is every chance that this could pop forward and go, and I'm not going to do anything if that was to happen. The fib 50% and 38.2% is the somewhere in the 69.70, which is where the weekly pivot is, which would be fine. I'm all right to look for reversal signs there. And the other one is 69.62. So somewhere in this area, somewhere in this 10 pip area, 69.60 to 69.70 is where I'm going to look for a trade. Now, we need an exit strategy as well, as Jeff says. The exit strategy is going to be around about this high up here. So somewhere at about 70.20 is the exit strategy. Stops are going to be somewhere at the low. And after we get to this particular high, maybe we start to look for the downside. Maybe we just to come out a little bit and look for the rest of the trade just to go that little bit higher. But my current strategy is going to be I'm not even sure whether that's going to be enough pips. Is it 69.70 to 60 to 70.20? This is some of the issue, though, isn't it? It's, if this isn't going to be that lucrative, actually, it's 39. That doesn't leave us a lot. And what you're saying about having a plan, this is the issue, isn't it? When you kind of the plan means that, and this is the thing about taking these prices up here. The reason that I can't take a price up here, even if I got the perfect setup, is the risk to reward ratio just does not exist. You know, then we're looking at no, it's 50. It's actually less, and we need to get much better out there than that. So we're going to look to see if we can get a significant dip. Now, the other potential option is that it gets up to this level and then goes through, and then on return, we could see if there's any trades to the upside. So we're going to look for the short in this area to start with, see what happens. If we get signs and signals of reversal at 70.20, we'll go short. If it holds, we'll go long. If it holds and goes through, we'll go long. So these really, and this is something that you've done all over your chart, haven't you, Jeff? You've stuck the important levels on your chart, where the areas that the turning points. And I really like that. You know, I think that's really good practice for anybody out there that's trading and learning to trade, is to put significant levels where you're going to do something. You know, and if you're not going to do anything at the level it's at because there's no setup there, then try and find the levels where you're going to look for something to happen. Because when we were doing IFP over the weekend, some of the confusion comes in from the strategy, and I was trying to say to people, you know, you need three things that you always look for when you're looking for a trade. The first thing is direction. The second thing is where you're going to trade. You know, in back in the direction. You know, want it to come back and back in the trade in the direction. And then the third thing is that's when the setup comes. So before you even got to the setup, you should have the first two questions answered: direction and where.
Before you go into battle. Yes.
Yeah. So you know what we're doing here, or what I'm doing here, is I'm saying, unless I get this price here, I know direction's up. Well, that's what I've established. My direction's up. Unless I get price here, not worth it. If it comes here, direction's down. You know, that actually changes everything, because if I'm going to take profit here, the reason I'm going to take profit is that I'm going to suspect that resistance will probably start to reverse my trade, and that means I want to look for downside in this area. You know, so I'm going to look for the 70-20 for some downside. So, you know, I've got nothing to do right now. It's one of those things that the market or the FTSE 100 is currently in no man's land. As lovely as this move has been, and I wish I'd got in at this point because there was a small sniff there, but that was just before I'd sat down. So there was a small sniff there, but that's not a big deal because you know, still looking for some decent downside. But the other thing is, if this is starting to move into this area, we have to recognize that this is going to start looking pretty exhausted, you know, up there. So looking for reversal signs there would be actually a pretty good idea. So yeah, that's all I can do, mate. That's my plan. Plan
All right,
is
mate.
long 60-60, sorry, 69-60-ish, 69-70, short at 70-20, or take profit, you know, whichever we're going to look at it. And they're my two numbers.
Happy days. Let's hope that pans out. Did you just change to me? Must have.
I didn't change to you, did I?
I don't know. It seemed to go to me. That big screen in the middle is the one that's on there, yeah? Is that right?
Yeah, I've got. Yeah, did you just have my screen?
And now I've got your screen again. Now I've got my screen.
You got your screen, great. Yeah.
Now I've got yours. Now I've got mine.
Have you? Oh, it's
It
not
keeps
flashing my end.
It keeps changing. It's ridiculous. So I've got no idea what the people are watching. Anyway, it's stable now on mine. A couple of things I want to look at. And look, this is... I don't even really want to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it because I'm going to place a small order here long. But I have to say to you that it is not suicide, but it's not far from it, because I'm trading at this level right here, which has been support twice, been resistance twice, but we have broken the trend line that's going through here. And that's what this is based on after two things. If I look at the 4-hour chart, this is the euro dollar, right? There's a big bullish engulfing bar here, big rejection down here, but then it engulfs this bar like a whale shark on a minnow, you know. And then we've come back to the daily pivot. This line here is an issue. It's a major issue in this trade. But what I'm seeing here is reversal confirmation. That's on the 4-hour chart. Maybe I should be trading the 4-hour chart, but it's setting up on both the 30-minute chart and the hourly chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trade this on the 30-minute chart above this bar here. Now, if I'm wrong, this will hesitate here and it will immediately pull back. I would watch for that. And if it happens, get out of there fairly quickly because we're wrong. We're absolutely wrong. But if we can get a few pips through here, let's say enough to take profit, then I think the weekly pivot is a lay down misere, I'll put it that way. So that's why I'm going to take the trade. There's enough reward here for the risk that we're taking. But that said, I'm only going to trade it at relatively small stake. So I'm going to trade it. So we'll put it in the market. It is euro yen I'm talking about. And we're going half a lot, that'll do. I don't want any more than that. Pending order to buy stop. I'm going to give you an alternate to this in a tick. The entry level is going to be above this candle, not this candle, because that's the high. 127.74 is going to be the entry level. This is one of those trades that you don't try at home, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But I think the reward is there, so we'll take it. The entry is 127.74. The stop loss is going to be underneath this bar at 127.45. So it's near enough to a 30 pip risk. It's actually 29. And half a lot will do. We'll place the order. Again, entries above this black line, above this candle, Stop loss is below it. The target is very, very clear. It is either DR1 or weekly pivot. Depends on what happens with price there. Again, if price hits DR1 and edges through it, I'll move my stop immediately to DR1 and hope that we can get those extra few pips. If we don't, doesn't matter. And once we get, there's no real level here. I suppose there is a level, and that's yesterday's daily pivot, but it's too far. I don't want to trade that far without profit. Maybe there's okay. So 127.81 would be where I'd be looking to take my first profit. You can do one of two things here. If you want to be aggressive, move your stops to entry straight away and don't take anything off the table, because I think if we get through here, we're going here. And I think that's probably the way to trade this. So don't take anything off the table. Don't bank here. Just move your stop to entry. And if I'm wrong, doesn't really matter. We haven't lost anything. But if I'm right and we do get through this level, I think we're headed there. So that's where I'm looking to exit the trade. So that's euro yen. Again, the entry is at 127.74. Sorry, that's not right. 127.75 is the entry. And the stop loss is at 127.45. So there actually is a 30 pip risk. I think I've got that wrong. I'm going to have to change that. I said I wanted the entry above that candle, not this candle. So that is right. I'll change that. But anyway, the risk is 30 pips. Entry, again, one last time, is at 127.75. And take your target up here.
Nice, mate. Do you know what? I just realised why it flicks between the two of us, because whoever's talking seems to, I don't know how this is set up now, but it seems that whoever's talking gets the screen.
Oh, shit, it's AI. Oh, my God, that's all I need.
Interestingly, did you take into account the hammer on the daily chart with this one?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that.
There's lots going on here, and that's why. That's why I'm willing to take the risk. I don't think it's a great entry, and that's my issue. The entry's not good. If the entry was like down here somewhere, I'd be far happier, or even here, on this area. But it's just one of those patterns that I like, and that's why I'm doing it. Simple as that. I could have traded it actually on the euro. It's pretty similar, but the euro is a little bit worse in that, and you'll notice the difference here. The size of the risk to the reward is way, way less than it is on euro yen. The reward on offer here is far greater than it is on the euro. So the risk to reward is dreadful here compared to euro yen. So that's why I'm taking it. Mate, I've got to fly.
Yes, mate. Yes, you do. Well, you get going. It's no big deal. Thanks so much for stopping as long as you did. Didn't expect you.
The Aussie yen, mind you, I'm not changing anything. If we're right here, then I think, again, similar scenario. I think we'll get down to this level at least, and probably the daily pivot. If we're wrong, this should just bounce off the weekly pivot and keep going long. So that's, again, the basis of that one. Hope both of them kick goals for us. We'll see.
Yes, absolutely. So just a quick reminder that we are now on UK hours being an hour back. Now back? Yeah, we've gained an hour. So we will be starting the show an hour later than we were starting it before. So I don't know what that means.
Or is that forward?
I think our clocks went back.
Yeah, your clocks went back, which means for me, it's forward in time. It's crazy.
Yes. So we just for Singapore time, we are now starting at 3:30 Singapore, not 2:30.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, so that'll be the same for the rest of the week. So, okay, mate. Well, you shoot off. There's not going to be a whole bunch for me to do either, so I'll probably wrap up as well. I think it's I think we've pretty much said what we need to say for the market. But you go and shoot off, and I will wrap things up, and I will see you in the morning.
Happy day. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, so we are looking at this FTSE 100, obviously, and we're looking to go long. These bars are incredibly bullish, and it's just not giving us the opportunity. But do not move away from these charts. You know, then this is a lesson for anything that you're trading. I'm not going to move away from this. I'm just going to go and have a little bit of a break. You know, there's no point in me doing anything. I'm going to take a break for an hour or so and wait for this market to come back again. And the price is going to be still the same, so we're still looking at 69.60, 69.70 kind of area. There should be some resistance up here. You know, we're not looking to go short yet. The big short is going to be around 70.20, but right now we're still looking to go long, but we need a dip back here, and if it dips back here and holds, pretty difficult to actually ascertain the structure on this hourly chart because it has just exploded. But there is some structure here at around about the 69.70 area, and there's a structure a little bit lower at 69.60 area. So they're the two areas that I'm going to look for. If it doesn't come back there, I'm not interested in this market whatsoever. I'm going to let it go and see if I can look for a reversal signs and signals at 70.20. And it may well go up there. So it's just one of those today that has been just impossible to get on board. And you see this a lot with these markets that when they go long, actually going long can be very, very difficult. There's been very few opportunities with this one since we've been on air in the last hour. Very, very few opportunities because the trade was all the way down here. As soon as the hourly bar shut and closed down as this hammer, there was a chance, but that would have been an hour before the actual FTSE 100 opened up. So difficult one to take, and it's just one of those that today I don't think we are going to get it in this particular session. But as the market just when the buyers start to take their profit, we should drift back a little bit, and then we can get on board. So not too concerned right now. There's no reason to chase it. And we will just wait and see, take a break, and then come back and look at some more charts and more potential opportunities later on. Sorry, I can't look at your charts, guys. I can do in future if you want to Facebook me. If you guys have got my Facebook, it's Ash Trading. And if you want to Facebook me, then you can send me some screenshots and ask me about specific charts, and we can look at your potential trades as well. So there is a way for you guys to communicate. We haven't worked out how to do it with YouTube as yet, but you can actually communicate me personally through Ash Trading on Facebook, and I can look through your bits and pieces there. All right, well, have a great rest of the day, guys, and I will speak to you all tomorrow, hopefully giving us the opportunity to get some FTSE longs on, but we got to wait. We got to wait. Happy trading, guys.